have another guest today on Piping Talks. We have a piper based, actually, I was going to say based in Scotland. He's Scottish, but he's based in Ireland at the moment. So we played before at Boghall together for a few years. And I'm excited to just have a solid conversation with another piper, another guest, Alex Scougall. Alex, how are you doing?
Very well, Glenn. Very well.
Yeah,
Absolutely
good.
delighted to be here and to be chatting to you again after quite some time apart.
Yeah, we were just saying that I usually talk to people before we go on air, but we played together, and then obviously I moved out of the country and didn't play with the Bug Hole for a few years, and then you kind of moved around, and which I'm excited to talk about. And then 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago at the UK Championship, we had a little catch up, and I was like, "Wow, we should definitely talk about your story a bit more."
Yeah.
So right now you're in Dublin. You're at work. You're in Dublin. We won't tell work, but you're originally from Scotland on the East Coast, right, or like Edinburgh area.
Yeah. Born, raised, studied, worked all in Edinburgh, and then around sort of 2017ish, sort of took my first big move away. So yeah.
Right. And so, why the? I was kind of curious. Sometimes you play with people and you hang out with people, but you actually don't even like sort of know much about their story and stuff. And I was like, why Boghall? Why the pipes and why Boghall in the first place? Was that your first band? Did you start with the Juvies or Novice?
So it's actually a really interesting story when you come full circle and know the end of it. But I actually started piping in my local band, which is Cocoon District. They're still a band in existence just now. They compete at the odds major championship every now and again, so you do see them in and around that 4A 3B sort of grade. Um, I played with them for one season when I was about 10 years old, and then my mum and dad actually had a coincidental bump into Ross Harvey. This was back in 2003, 2004. Ross Harvey and my mum actually worked together whilst Ross was doing a sort of summer placement or whatever at my mum's work. And at their Christmas party that year, Ross was invited to be a piper at the Christmas party that year. My dad got speaking to him and says, my son's, just learning the pipes just now. He's about 10, 11 years old. And Ross said, well, look, I play in Boghall. We've got a teaching system. Why don't you bring him along? So then I joined the Boghall band when I was about 11 years old into the novice juvenile band. And then you fast forward 10 years, Ross is a pipe major and I was pipe sergeant. It's funny how it all comes around, right?
Yeah, that's crazy. Well, I didn't know. So you have a tight relationship with him, I imagine, because of that and the story on how you arrived to the band.
Oh yeah, like I still count Ross as, even though I'm not a member of the Boghall band anymore, I still count him as, one of my best mates. But yeah, I mean, I've knew Ross since I was 10 years old. I think he would have been about 17, 18 at the time, ready to go to uni, and I was about 11 years old at the time when I joined the band. And then when I was about 12, 13 years old, I joined the juvenile band. And Ross at the time I don't think he had joined the George Watson School band yet, so he was helping a lot with the juvenile band at Boghall alongside Donald McLeod. So he was helping out a lot there. So, it helped me a lot develop at those early stages as well. And then again, later on, when Ross ended up being a teacher at the George Watson School band, alongside Ian Simpson, who also played in Boghall for a number of years. I done a couple of, and was invited along to teach some of their summer schools as well. So yeah, me and Ross have been pretty tight across our whole pipe band journey together.
Yeah, that's amazing. You must have been delighted with the result for him. I imagine the other weekend, not for the current band that you play with, but
Delighted. I mean, don't get me wrong. I was hurting a little bit inside that I couldn't properly celebrate, right? But like delighted for Ross. It's been a long time coming. I think that's now his what, seventh or eighth season as pipe major, and I think there's been a lot of results where they could have placed a lot higher in the prize list over that time as well. So it's about time they got some reward for their hard work.
Yeah, I didn't know. Yeah, that's crazy. And funny enough, I pretty missed that as well. Where I was just chatting with you about how it's good that I talk to different, leading drummer or pipe major, and then band member, and then I totally forgot, but you ended up being pipe surgeon at Boghall for a few years. So you actually did the whole progression, like a lot of guys in the band, where you entered through the novice, then you moved up to the juvies, and then the Grade One band. Um, when did you take over pipe surgeon role, and how was it? What was the sort of the
Yeah, so
transition?
I'll take you a bit further back than that because it's important to know, I suppose, that bulk hall teaching system, that conveyor belt of talent, it absolutely does exist. And, there are guys every year that go from being a learner, not even in the novice band, but part of the learner group, all the way through to them playing with the Grade One band and winning a major championship, right, in Grade One. But I'd been in the novice band, went to the juvenile band, and then started to play with the Grade One band when I was about 17, 18. And then when I was about 21, I was definitely still in uni at the time. I got the opportunity to become the pipe major of the then novice band, and we done pretty well. Got upgraded to the juvenile band, so I had probably 4 or 5 years of experience on not leading a band in a top grade by any means, but in terms of managing people, managing a band, dealing with the raw materials as well to get to a standard that you want to compete with. So I had a little bit of knowledge as such behind me that I ended up was a pipe sergeant at the Grade One band for Ross for the 2016 and 2017 season, and then in 2017. My work took me down to the northeast of England, to Leeds actually. So I moved down to Leeds in 2017, and at the time I was just adapting too much to the career, into a new move, that then I put the brakes on the piping career for a while.
Right, right, right. Do you feel like having that system in place where if you reach grade one, you can help novice be pipe surgeon, pipe major of the band? Do you think that helped you um, take the decision to be pipe surgeon of the grade one band? Like, do you feel like without that, you probably wouldn't have, or maybe too scared in some ways to take the responsibility, or you were
Oh,
ready?
absolutely, absolutely. There's no way I would have even have been in contention to have been given that responsibility if I hadn't had the kids bands, because um, it, going through that phase of my piping journey, being able to set a band up from scratch, go through a competition days is a big one as well, and how to react to weather, to situations, to behaviours. The actual day of the contest is something you need to adjust to quickly as well. So yeah, I would say absolutely. I would not have even have been in contention for Ross to even offer me that position if it wasn't for the kids band. So it's absolutely a fundamental stepping stone to want to do something like that in a leading Grade One band. Absolutely. I mean, you've got guys now that in that Grade One competition. Matt Wilson does a tremendous job with that dollar band. They're phenomenal, and he's now doing a phenomenal job in the Field Marshal Montgomery band. You got Ross Harvey had the George Watson's kids band for years before then becoming the pipe sergeant of the Grade One band as well. And when you look at some of the other Grade One bands, you look at Inverary, Scottish Power, Shots. All of these guys in the leadership positions have been a pipe major or a kids band at some point as well. It's interesting when you go through all the top six bands, how many of these guys spent leading a kids band. It's fantastic to see, actually.
Yeah, you're right. Now that I think about it, and you're just naming all those people that have experience with a juvies or novice juvenile band to kind of like learn the learn the job in some ways. Was it a big difference between being the pipe major of the kids band to being the pipe surgeon of a grade one band? I bet you're dealing with
Oh, I can
adults
tell
versus
you,
kids, right?
so much easier going to the Grade One band. So much easier.
To the
And
grade one band or was the kids?
And you know what, it set me up really well for my professional life as well, because um, I tell you, one of the hardest conversations you'll have in your life is telling a parent that their kid's not good enough to compete with their friends on the day of a contest. That's got to be one of the hardest conversations you'll ever have. So, but you would like to think that the time you're dealing with adults in a grade one band and having to have those conversations from a management perspective and a man management perspective, it's a hell of a lot easier. There is just tends to be a little bit more, uh, I suppose, difficulty running a kids band in regards to the development of your players as well, in regards to their finger technique, their blowing, their actual raw materials themselves, whether it be their pipes, their bag, their reeds. All of that's a bit more volatile in a kids band than it is in a grade one band. So actually, I would say it's a bit easier running the grade one band than it is a kids band.
Yeah, you know what? I didn't think about all this stuff, but definitely, now that you bring that up, it's like, oh yeah, totally. Like, you tell the parents that have been driving their kids to band practice like twice a week,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a tough position. What would be like something that you took away from the leading the kids band to the grade one band, in like maybe the setup on the day, or the way you were framing the season? Was like, what would be one thing that you kind of like feel it's similar, and then you took from one to the other?
I'd say two things. I'd say from a pipe core perspective, first of all, it's all about the maintenance of your instrument. The maintenance of your instrument is so key. And I fell foul of that myself my first couple of years in the grade one band, where just my pipes weren't good enough, to be honest. My maintenance of my pipes weren't good enough. If you've got a well maintained bagpipe, it sets you up for success. And I just don't think you can especially win a major championship in grade one if you've not got a well maintained instrument. So I'd say that was something to take away. But also, the other biggest takeaway was trying to emulate the day of a contest at a practice. If the day of a contest is the first time you're doing a 50-minute warm up, or it's the first time you're going to play your pipes and then put them down again and get them back out again, if that's the first time you're doing that on the day of a contest, how do you know how your instruments and your people are going to react, right? So what we worked on a lot with the kids band was, how do we emulate in practice what we're going to do on the day of a contest? Because then when you rock up the day of a contest, everyone knows exactly what's expected of them, because guess what, guys, we've just been doing that the last 8 practices, so we're going to be doing the exact same. So mentally you can approach it in a very, very safe space.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I love that insight as well, because it's the same for any grade. Really, you can be in grade four or grade three or grade one. There's this routine that you create at practice to be the best you can be on the day. Was it something you touched on, like how you got to get the job in some ways at the kids with the kids band? Um, was it something that you were always interested in, like to rather teach or to be pipe surgeon of a band, or you were just going with the
No,
motion and
not,
then it happened?
not at all. I feel as though it probably just came a bit naturally. When I mean, I suppose the opportunity came to run the kids band because myself and David Burnside at the time were going up an hour early before band and teaching the learners at the time. And basically, what happened was there was one night where the learners went on, but we arrived early anyway. I thought, we'll just watch the novice juvenile band. It was actually Alvis Kerr at the time had the novice juvenile band, who done a tremendous job, by the way, done a tremendous job for a number of years, not just a short stint like what I did.
Yeah.
He'd done a number of years and was fully dedicated to the organisation. But I remember just sitting watching Alvis do his thing, and I just turned to Burnside and I just says, "Here, do you not think we could do that? Like, how hard could it be? By the way, it is difficult. I'm not
I was gonna
it's
say, I'm sure
tremendously
all of this will
difficult."
love to hear that.
Yeah, I know. But I remember saying these words like, "Hey, I wonder if Alvis would be willing to give the band up. Like, do you think we could do this? I mean, we're arriving an hour before band anyway to take the learners, but we try and give it a shot." So we took I grabbed Ross Walker and I said to him, "Like, thinking about doing this, how do you think we should approach the conversation with Alvis? And would you support us?" We had Ross Walker's full backing, and when we approached Alvis, he couldn't be more delighted that some younger guys in the band wanted to invest their time to progress the organisation. So he was more than willing for us to get involved and do our thing with it. So we've got a lot to
Yeah,
thank Al for.
that's a funny story. Except when he's gonna hear that you're like, we can do that.
Can't be that hard,
What
right?
he's doing, we can do that.
Yeah.
Do you think it changed your? Do you think it changed your playing or the sort of maybe not your ability, not your technique, but like the way you approach then showing up to Grade One practices?
Yeah, tremendously. Again, I think I took my instrument for granted before I had the kids band. Like, you know, what could really go wrong between a Thursday and a Monday, or what could really go wrong between a Monday and a Thursday? Whereas, you know, you then have these, you know, these kids rock up to a practice whose instruments are just naturally more volatile because maybe of the strength, of the age, or you know whatever that may be, or the moisture control systems, and you really start to appreciate how much volatility is in a bagpipe when you're with some kids. Um, so as a result, then I tend to actively even just maintain my pipes on a Tuesday, Thursday. That might not mean I'm blowing my pipes, but it might mean that I'm tightening things up a bit. I'm seasoning the bag and making sure things are dried out properly. I'm putting my brushes through them because you know that stuff will mean your Thursday setup is a lot more efficient. So you absolutely take a lot from it, and you develop as a player as well.
Right,
100%.
right, right. What's what do you think is your favorite memory with the band? With maybe when you were a pipe major, pipe surgeon, not yet, pipe surgeon, or with the kids band, or just playing in the band. What was your favorite memory?
I mean, I've got two, I suppose. One is winning the first major with the Grade One band in Belfast at Stormont. You were in the band that day as well, weren't you?
Hmm.
At Stormont, yeah,
Yeah.
in 2012. That was. I can remember I was particularly. I don't know if it was particularly satisfying for this reason, but I remember at the time Inveraray hadn't won a major championship yet in Grade One, but by listening to them, everyone just knew it was a matter of time before it was happening. And in 2012, I can particularly remember them being excellent and thinking they're going to win a major championship this year. And it was actually Olav, when we were at the March Pass, came up to me and said, "Hey, Inveraray have won the drumming and they've won it overall today." And I remember just thinking, God, what, no way. Like, I want to win a major championship. Like, come on. Like, so I remember being like, why am I even standing here if we know Inverary's has won? So then the video was on YouTube actually of us getting crowned European champions that day. It's a tremendous video actually. I don't know if it was relief or whatever. That was just like, oh my God, yes. I suppose we've beat them to a major championship. I don't know what it is, but I was just so expecting Inveraray to win that day. So it just made it a bit more of a surprise that we won
Right.
that day. So that was a big one. And then I suppose my second favorite memory was our first major championship, leading the novice juvenile band. We won the major championship, and it was actually in Bathgate as well. So it was the first major of the season, first time I've been a pipe major of any band. Go out the British Championships at Bathgate that day and win the contest, very first one. It was, yeah, unbelievable. The band hadn't even been in the prize list the previous year, so yeah, it was a
Just
good
for
night.
the
That night,
team,
it was a
like
very good night.
the effort, like you
Uh,
felt like, yeah, probably more than if you were the one winning at a top level, right? Like you were like the effort and all the work that we've done all winter is, yeah.
yeah, it's not just like it's not even just the 20 or 30 kids that are in the band with you. You've then got a bunch of 60 or 70 parents as well that are just elated. So it's just, yeah, it's just different. It's just different. Yeah, it was excellent.
That's amazing. That's amazing to hear. And yeah, going back to the result. I actually talked to Olaf last week. An episode will come out soon, but it's definitely something tricky when rumors, and sometimes it's real, sometimes it's not. And who could potentially win. And I feel like it made it extra special because you went through so many emotions of like, I really wish, we played really well. It's exciting. I wish it's us. And then, someone potentially saying that it's not you, and then you're like down, and then you
Mhm.
have the excitement of like the announcement where you expected it the least. It's probably like
Yeah,
the best, and also like just not great for your heart rate. But
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Sweet. So you did mention, and it's something that I always, you hear, you see people play in the pipe band, especially the top grade, and there aren't necessarily pipe major or leading drummer, and they have a successful career that do great stuff outside of piping, and you still maintain that, like, sort of like two to three times a week practice, and almost every day for a piper, if you want to make sure your pipes is well maintained. But we won't touch on that topic. But yeah, just to, like, having a solid career and still performing at the top level. You mentioned you moved to Leeds. Did you ever go down to London? No, you stayed in Leeds for a bit, and that's where you.
I spent a lot of time. I spent a lot of time in London, but it was in 2017. I moved to Leeds, um, which, geez, I mean, I was heartbroken at the time. To be honest, moving down and having to give up the hobby for a while. To be honest, that was, and
Right.
there's no very high level grade one bands in and around Leeds. So that was heartbreaking at the time, but my you know I took a lot of inspiration in those moments from Ross Walker. Ross Walker has had a tremendously successful career, um, and I think when you've got a pipe major, a band, a successful pipe major, the band who's also managed to juggle a successful career, you do grab a lot of inspiration from it. Now, yes, I might have had to go down a different route and leave the band for a couple of years. And I suppose it is what it is, but I, I just feel as though usually I'm sure there's a quote that's like, you're an average of the people you surround yourself with, right? And I feel as though when I got into the grade one band at the time when I joined, all of us are quite young professionals, a lot of guys that were making good headways in their career, and I think that really influenced me making the decision to go. It's probably valid to put my career first just now, because piping and pipe bands is something that I can pick up at any point. If it means just a couple of years whilst I focus on something different, I can always come back to it. So a tough decision at the time, but I think it's paid off for me in the long run, because when the opportunity came to Dublin, I can remember in my mind it was, I need to get in touch with Alan Tully and see if I can join the band, because this is exactly the opportunity that I was talking about when I moved down to Leeds, that I can focus on my career for a certain period of time and I will always pick it back up. And yeah, when the option came up about Dublin, it was a no-brainer for me. And if I was able to play with some Laurence O'Toole band, it was just going to be an added bonus. So yeah.
Yeah. Did you miss playing? Like, uh, how was the transition? So you moved to Leeds, and you've been surrounded with people that would just fly in for a major and play, and then come back to where they were based. Did you ever feel like, maybe I'm just, this is my time, I quit and I focus just on my career, or did you think about maybe traveling to competition to play with the band?
Well, I tell you, between 2017 and tail end of 2017 and 2022, or sorry, probably middle of 2021, I did not pick up a set of bagpipes in that period at all. Did absolutely zero. I suppose not through choice. I suppose I was going to play with. Here's a bit of interesting information for you, but had fully intended on playing with the Boghall band in 2018, for the 2018 season, and being a fly-in. And I spoke about it a lot with Andrew Ray at the time, who actually moved down to Bristol, and asked him a lot of advice on how he managed that and flying into the band and stuff. But then my twin brother actually had a heart transplant in March 2018. So I was spending a lot of my time traveling on a Friday evening back up to Edinburgh, to see my brother in hospital, to then drive back down to Leeds on a Sunday afternoon. I ended up phoning Ross Harvey to say, look, my priority is to make sure my brother's all right, not to play in a big band. So yeah, that sort of delayed things further. By the way, my brother's totally fine now.
I was
He's
going to
he's
say,
he's
wow, I
alive.
hope he's
He's
okay. All
well.
right,
He's
great.
doing great. But yeah, it was that was a particularly hard time, because I felt as though I was letting Ross down, because I said to him I was going to be playing with the band, I was going through a pretty tough time at work as well, just in regards to busyness and workload and managing a new role, really. And then on top of that, having to travel back to Edinburgh every weekend to see my brother was crazy. So something had to give, right? And at that point, it was a pipe band.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Makes
then
sense.
yeah, and then really you're talking about getting into COVID, right? And I had no reason to pick up a set of bagpipes.
Easy to drop, isn't it? What was it like going back? So that's like 4 years of of not playing. Like, did you miss it? Did you just felt like, eh, it's
Not at
it's
all. Did not miss it in the slightest. Like genuinely did not miss it. Even and I remember people saying, but when you rock up on the day of a contest, you'll really miss it then. I did not miss it at all. Even on the day of a contest, I actually thought this is amazing. This is so good. Just rocking up, tuning some drones and going for a pint. I thought it was brilliant. Like,
I
did
mean,
not miss it at all.
sounds pretty good though, right? Just tuning some drones
It's a
and
good
go for
day
a
out,
pint.
right?
It's
It's a,
pretty
it's a
good.
great day out. Yeah, but so I didn't miss it as such. But then when an opportunity presents itself in front of you, i.e., joining the St. Laurence O'Toole Pipe Band,
Right.
it's a
Yeah, yeah.
no-brainer. It is a no-brainer.
That's someone I want to touch on where I could just say you enjoy playing the pipes with the band, but actually we talked a little bit about it, and it's been very valuable for me everywhere I've been. Maybe moving to New York, or even when I was spending some time down in Australia, is you if you play the if you play the pipes or the drums, and you move to a new city that has a band, you ultimately meet 30 people right away, right? You might not get along
Uh,
with everyone, but you might create amazing friendship and know all those people right away. Was it super valuable for you?
honestly, it's been an unbelievable experience coming here because every single person in this band in Dublin, the St. Laurence O'Toole Pipe Band, every single person is just unbelievably friendly, unbelievably welcome. Like every single guy in that band is just priceless to have as a even just as a support network, and that's something I didn't have in Leeds. Going down there, my mates were the people that I worked with, whereas now I've got people that I work with here, but then I can completely forget my work and go to a band practice at night or at a weekend, and I've got something else to talk about, right? Other than just work, work, work. But the
Right.
guys here it's just a tremendous group of people in this band here as well. Every single one of them, I can't say a bad word about any of them. They're just a tremendous group of people here.
Did you ever think about it? Like, because obviously you grew up, you grew up in around Edinburgh, and joined Boghall early on. Your friends at the band were also your friends, and you just were like, this is, I take it for granted. And then, did you expect to have so much support from leaving the Cocoon and going to, like, Dublin, and meeting all sort of new people? Was it something that you knew how powerful pipe band could be with friendship and stuff like that?
Um, no, to be honest, I suppose I just threw myself right in at the deep end, and yeah, it was a funny one because when I joined the band, I didn't even, I suppose, feel guilty about leaving Boghall because I met with Alan. And we had a chat over a couple of things, and I just knew right away it was going to be such a brilliant fit for me. Coming to Dublin and having that group of people around me and getting back into what I love again, right? I absolutely love the pipe band. I love playing the music. I love playing the music with other people. And then when I spoke to Alan, it was, wow, this is what's been missing in my life for the last 4 or 5 years. It was honestly, it's such a nice feeling, and you've experienced it recently as well, right? Going a couple of years not playing, think you don't miss it, and then stepping right back into that realm. It's like, wow, why did I ever step away from this?
Yeah, there's the tuning part, and then having pints, which is, it's great too. But if you're watching, it's not the same as if you're playing. If you're involved, and especially all the hard work that you need to put every day, in practicing your instrument. make sure you say that so that people from your band know that you're practicing a lot. There's the effort that you spend all year long to get to play and perform at your top. Was it tough? Like you said you haven't played for many years, and then was your fingers like where you? How was it the first time you show up to a practice you haven't played in quite a long time, and then your fingers are
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
wait, what?
it's not as tough as what some people make it out to be. I would say that. I mean, don't get me wrong. The first
Yeah,
time
but
you
you're
get your counter
talented.
back
Not
out,
everyone is
yeah.
talented as
No,
you,
the
you
first
know.
time you
So
get your counter back out again, it's your fingers. To be honest, it's more fatigue. Like I'd get tired after 10, 15 minutes, or my fingers would feel really stiff after 5, 10 minutes, and some of the movements might not be very clean. But 3 weeks, and you're back up to it. I'm telling you,
boom.
three
All
weeks
right,
is all it
everyone.
takes.
3 weeks. It's exactly what you need to get back to playing in a top six band in the world. That's amazing. So you've been in Dublin for like a year or more, probably, right, by now.
No, 3 years now. So I moved here really bad timing, but right at the start of COVID is when I moved
Damn.
here. So the first 12 months were really well. First 18 months were really bad. I had joined the band for 18 months and still not met anyone, which was crazy.
Oh, right.
My first 12 months in Dublin, I hadn't even really been in the office at my work either. I hadn't really met anyone, so that was a really tough period of time. But yeah, it'll be 3 years in August, I believe. I've been here, so yeah, 3 years.
Love it. Love the city. Love the atmosphere and the
Ah,
people.
brilliant. If anyone's not visited before, it's just superb for food and drink. Food and drink, mostly drink. But yes, it is such a good city to be in.
Nice. Nice, that's awesome. What's just last kind of question around piping? If you and I asked you this question, I like to ask this sort of question. If you have one medley that you've played or that you've listened to maybe most recently or in the past that kind of like stuck with you, maybe it's a medley where you were like just starting piping and you were like, wow, this is amazing, like I want to work harder on my piping to get to that level, or one that you played or a performance and you were like, this is sounding so good, I'm really enjoying where the band is at.
But I mean, I suppose I'll give you a performance I remember listening to, which was the Field Marshal Montgomery performance. They played. It was a medley performance in Stormont. It was maybe either 2013, 2014, something like that. And there was a medley. They finished the Train Journey North, or maybe it was 2011, something like that. And I remember standing watching it that day and just thinking, that is the most perfect pipe band performance I've ever heard in my life. And to this day, I can still just think, I think that is literally an unbeatable pipe band performance. It is crazy, crazy how good it was. And to hear it live that day was just mind blowing. So that was unbelievable listening to that. But also, I mean, I'd also even say back just last year, Worlds, I had the opportunity with the St. Laurence O'Toole Band to play the MSR on the Friday. That it was the same MSR that the band won the Worlds in 2010 with. So LAK, Isla Ball, Miss McPherson, and Varan. And to me, like I prefer those sort of memorable performances when it's like I'm literally playing, the three tunes that the band won a world championship with, and the band with this current crop of people. That to me was something special to say that I've played those tunes in the St. Laurence O'Toole Band at a world championships. Yeah, that gave me, hairs on the back of the neck sort of stuff. I was just really, really proud to say that I've played in that performance.
That's awesome. Were people talking about it, like in the band, being like, "This is what we're successful with," so we're they were enjoying playing it as well.
Well, no, to be honest, I remember coming off and saying to one of the lads in the band, like, hey, I just feel really proud that I've been part of that performance because the band won the Worlds with those sets of tunes. And everyone was like, oh, really? Did we? So, all right, yeah. So, I don't know. I don't know if it was just something I was personally thinking about. But I mean, the band, like, played, the MSR that day was excellent. Yeah, the band was buzzing that day as well. I can't remember where we finished in that MSR contest last year on the Friday, but I can remember just thinking, "This is I've made it. I've made it. This is it."
You've made it. I love it. I mean, that's what you do it for, right? Like it's wow, like I played a set, or I've played tunes that, and it's funny because it's different for everyone, right? Like you were just saying, for you it's like, oh my god, that's the MSR they won the worlds with in 2010, and then but for others it was like just another set that they had to play, and it's maybe something
Yeah,
else
yeah,
is that giving the same emotion that you're getting.
yeah.
On the FM front, like, what was it that kind of like struck you? Was it the construction of the medley, the tunes that they were playing, or the just the sound, or overall everything?
To be honest, I think it was just the power of the sound. I stood right behind the front rank that day, and it was a hot day. It was a hot day. It was a night. It was a nice day, and I remember just standing behind the front rank and just like the power and the volume of the pipes. Like you almost feel like the ground shaking. It was crazy. Just the sheer power of the band was, yeah, it was just so impressive. So impressive.
Is that what you I'm always curious, like we all stand by a band or listen to a band, but what I pay attention to as a drummer versus another drummer or a piper and all the pipers, like what people pay attention to is very different. I was just talking to a bass drummer, and I was curious if a bass drummer would, listen to the overall ensemble, or if it was just the bass drum, and he was saying it's the bass drum. All I can hear is the bass drum, and what I pay attention is the bass drum. What do you pay attention to when you listen to a band? Like, is it the sound? Or like, what is it that what do you go through when you listen to a band?
I'd definitely say that me personally, I don't think you really listen to a grade one band these days unless they've got a good sound. If a grade one band comes on and their chanters aren't quite right, you write them off right away. And rightly or wrongly, I don't know, but you write them off right away as soon as you can hear something wrong with the chanters, and then you know the drone's being locked into that chanter sound as well. But I'd say first and foremost, you listen to the chanter sound and how well tuned each individual note is, and if you can hear something, then probably the drone sounds, and then the actual execution. I would say the execution is almost third on the list. A lot of people are going to completely disagree with me on that one. They will, but yeah, and rightly or wrongly, you tend to just write people off if they've not got a good sound, no matter how good the
Really?
playing and execution is. And you tend to write them off if it's not a good sound.
And then you walk off, right? You walk away. So next time, if someone is seeing you listening and then walking off, it means that the technique was not the technique. The sound was not great.
Yeah, that's
Um,
I know what he's listening to. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. It's interesting. You said, I don't know if people are gonna be disagreeing with me. Sure, but everyone's different, right? So the what you perceive and what you connect with is different, and that's the beauty of it. All right, and with pipe band, the last final question: what's up now? So you're playing the season, obviously. We're midway, almost. Yeah, midway. What's are you doing solo competition, or you're purely just band and doing the worlds, and that's it?
yeah. So I've never really took joy in playing at solo contests. I'd usually just do it to try and prove myself, to be honest. But I take much more pleasure in running a contest with a band than I would at a solo contest. But I did play my first solo contest just in the winter. There, I played a lot All Ireland solos, and that must have been my first solo contest since about maybe 2013ish, 2014 maybe. I picked up a number of good prizes in the B grade competitions when I was living back in Scotland. And then I really just went quiet and wanted to focus on especially having the kids band. So it was nice to actually just to be on the boards again, I suppose, and compete at All Irelands. I'll do that again this year, hopefully, all things going well. But I'll definitely not focus on solos or solo competitions or anything like that. My priority is always going to be with the band and hopefully contributing to the band being successful. And other than that, I think I'm going to be in Dublin for at least another few years. So it's nice to have a base, knowing that I'm going to be here for a few years, and myself and my wife Laura, we can get ourselves a bit more settled here and plan for the long term. And then, unfortunately, Dublin is a means to an end. Though I will be leaving Dublin at some point. So, I work for a global company, and it allows us to move all over the globe, and I'm very open to doing a lot of traveling, living in different countries, experiencing different cultures. My work is sort of most prominent in North America, so hopefully do a stint over there at some point as well. So yeah, got a lot of things to look forward to.
Is it something that you always been sort of interested in, like, traveling and seeing different culture? There's traveling for a holiday, but there's also like just moving, right? Like I imagine going from Scotland to England to then Dublin, like it's you I know you're still within the UK and stuff, but it's like it's quite a change in terms of like just how people think. Is it something that you were always interested in, like traveling and doing that?
I wouldn't say always. Always, I would always have had the option in my head, knowing that if an opportunity came up, I'd consider it. But it's nothing that I've ever been driven towards, and it's not anything from a young age. I thought I need to get away from Edinburgh. I need to move away from Scotland. Nothing like that at all. But I've always been open to any opportunity that presented itself in front of me. So yeah, I'm quite easygoing in that way. Quite easygoing in regards to now that I've moved twice with the job as well. The first move is always the hardest. Now that I've done it a second time, I could see myself going anywhere to any extent. So yeah, I'm quite open.
Yeah, that's the tricky part. The first one is like, oh god, like like you said it's heartbroken. It's like heartbreaking. It's what have I done? And then you've done it once, and then you do it twice, and you're like, I could just keep doing this. I could go anywhere, really. But
So
then yeah, then you just never stop. I'm sure my parents would be happy to hear that. But yeah, this is awesome. Thank you for chatting with me. Anything else you want to promote or sort of like bring up before we wrap up?
no, no, at the moment, Claire, I have to say it's nice just to catch up with you again. Something you didn't actually mention is I think our first contest together playing in the band was 2008 in Birmingham. Do you remember that?
That was my first ever competition with the pipe band. Yeah, it was Birmingham. I think we won as a band, or we won the drumming. We won something, but I forgot what it was.
Yeah, that was 2008. So Jesus, we go way back now. I think that's interesting. 2008 in Birmingham. So
That is
not the
crazy.
usual place to meet a pipe bander, right?
No, and I remember because at the time I had to
I'm
be
not even
with a
sure if you could speak English at the time.
no, no, I'm telling you, I had to be. I think if you were going to England with the band, you had to be with an adult, or I think if you were under 18, you had to be with an adult. My dad came with me. He was loving it, obviously, but we, yeah, and I remember we stayed with the band, like a classic, pipe band competition. You stay in a hotel and you party and stuff, and I was just like, this is amazing. Like I'm playing, in the juvies, and it was great, but I must say now, like, thank God I had my dad with me because I could not understand anything of what anyone was saying in the band bus. And we had like probably a 30-minute ride to the competition. And, I, yeah, the English that I was learning was like, where's Brian? Brian's in the kitchen, like the classic stuff. And then you throw into a bus with like 20 under 18 kids just like playing the band in Scotland. It was quite an
Yeah,
experience. It was awesome. Yeah, that was it.
that's
Oh
brilliant.
wait, yeah, you were there. It was a good crew. We were touching on like your buddies being part of the band, but you guys especially had. I say you guys because I was obviously not there all the time, but you had a solid crew of same age, same generation going through the ranks at Boghall, and
Yeah,
they were still your friends from
there
now on.
must have been. I think there must have been a group of 8 or 9 of us that all started the ball call at the same age at the same time. They went all the way through to the grade one band at the exact same time. I think that also contributed to our success when we first got into the grade one band. Through 2010 through 2014. I think that contributed to our success. How much of a close knit group we were, and we're all best mates. So
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
definitely.
totally. Yeah, this is yeah, when I saw you after the UK championship, it was just like, there are a lot of stuff that I'd love to dive into, and talk to you about, and like how, career took over, and then piping, came back, and then trying to connect both. And I think a lot of people think that piping is everything, and that's what if you're playing at a top band, that's what you do. But you manage to actually balance professional work, and life and personal life and piping life pretty well, I must say. So it's great to hear. Yeah, thank you for sharing that experience.
No problem. It's a pleasure
Yeah,
catching up with you, Glenn.
yeah. So I'm sure I'll see you. Not the next major, but I'm sure I'll see you at the Worlds. And we'll have a pint together. It'll be fun.
Absolutely. Can't wait.
Yeah.